Today we're going to talk to you about supine groin stretch. I've got an email question from a client. Let me just read it to you, I guess. On supine groin stretch, I don't feel any stretching. When I do my regular stretching for workouts, I get a lot more stretching done and in 1/10 the time. Is it a misnomer to call it a stretch? Seems to me it could be made more time efficient and get more stretching done by doing something which requires effort. So that's a lot of questions. Basically it comes down to, we get this question a lot. Supine groin stretch, I don't feel any stretching, what's really happening? Brian did a great video about supine groin progressive on the homepage of our website. You can check that out too. But what we're doing here essentially is separating the two halves of the pelvis. So we've got one hip in flexion where the knee and the hip are at 90 degrees and kind of passive. Actually, the whole position is passive. And then on the other side, we've got the hip and pelvis in extension right out straight on the floor. And a couple things you want to check for when you're down here is, number one, how flat is your back on the floor? And how is your back? Is there some space there, or is it flat?
There's a space.
There's a little space? Okay. The other thing you want to try to do is contract the quad. If you contract the quad here, you want to think about where that contraction actually becomes the tightest. Typically, where do you feel that?
Mid-thigh.
Kind of mid-thigh, okay. Typically what people feel is it's a little closer to their knee or a little bit weaker when they first get in the position. They might also feel like their glute or their hamstring or even their calf muscle will want to contract when they make that squeeze. So what we're doing here is just kind of waiting for the iliopsoas, primarily the muscles of the hip, to lengthen and loosen enough so that the back flattens to the floor and the pelvis becomes more stable. So when we contract this quad, it's a little stronger contraction, sometimes a lot stronger, and it's more hip pocket-ish with that feeling of tightness. So that's all you do is lie here. So is it a stretch? Yeah, it is a stretch. It's a gradual lengthening rather than a forced lengthening. We're kind of just letting the body allow this position rather than trying to force the body into this position. Could we get it done faster? No, not really. People often say, well, could I just stretch it actively like you stretch in the gym? You know, and my question to them is always, well, are you getting any real long-term results? You know, we've all seen the guy who goes to the gym 3 times a week and stretches his hamstrings. Every day he comes back in and they're just as tight as they were the day before. So are you really making a lasting change in your body's range of motion? More often than not, that answer is no, unless they're doing something else to help with that. So here, if you do this exercise regularly, and yeah, it's going to take you probably half an hour or so, 15 minutes a leg, but you're going to get the result that you're looking for out of your traditional stretching. What you'll find is that gets that much easier. And day by day, you're getting looser and looser rather than kind of banging your head against the wall, stretching the same muscles over and over again. So once you've gotten this to release and the thigh contraction is high and the low back is kind of settled into the floor, you switch legs. You repeat that same process and you're going to get changes all the way up through your spine. Even people with neck and shoulder issues are going to get changes in their spine out of this position. Supine groin stretch, probably one of the most important exercises. Outside of doing it progressively, this is one of the best things you can do for yourself.